Hello, everyone. I believe I may have come across the most egregious example of echo chamber-induced lack of self-awareness I may have ever witnessed. Join me now on a journey of self-loathing and contradiction that may steal your very sanity. Onward to the guilt trip.
Many people on all sides of the racism coin have dealt with the trauma of racism.
All sides of the racism coin. Shouldn't that just be both sides? Oh, wait.
Racism is a spectrum, not a binary where you can either be a racist or an angel.
That's right. How silly of me.
Joining me on the stage is another doctor. We're loaded up with PhD. I have 3 doctors in a row.
It is rather frightening how many people with twisted notions gain the implicit credibility of being called doctor.
My 3rd doctor in a row is Dr. Kathy Obear, but I'm not a racist. Tools for well-meaning whites. Got a couple well-meaning whites on the stage right now.
Dr. Kathy Obear. Well, what exactly are you a doctor of? Let's take a look at your LinkedIn page. Education. A BA in History and Secondary Education. A Master's in College Student Personnel. Okay. And a Doctorate of Education in Social Justice Education. So you are a doctor in name only. Wonderful. Now, let's talk about the title of this book of yours. But I'm Not a Racist. Tools for Well-Meaning Whites. So, a white person who defends themselves from an accusation of being a racist is really just a well-meaning white who needs tools in order to fix themselves. So, a question for Dr. Obear. What would you suppose someone who is truly not a racist would say were they accused of being one? Is it the color of their skin that causes you to think they're operating in denial and need to consult your book to cleanse themselves of their sin? Do you understand how racist a notion that would be?
So let's talk about But I'm Not a Racist. Who is this book for? Why did you write it?
This is a book I wish I had decades ago, because I was and still am that well-meaning white who spent all my time dancing trying to get people of color particularly to think I was a good white and wanted to be their friend.
You were and still are that well-meaning white. So even you, having literally written the book on how to fix racism denial in white people, are still an admitted racist? This admission of yours might be part of your perpetual penance for having the skin tone you do, but it does nothing to increase your credibility towards criticizing all those other racists.
And didn't realize how often my comments, my behaviors, and my inactions and my silence just replicated racist dynamics. I had no idea that people could see the racist beliefs and attitudes I had in the subtle and not so subtle ways I showed up.
Ah, microaggressions. The covert devils that live inside all of us, and only the enlightened few can detect and confront us with as proof of our inborn wickedness.
And so I wanted to write this book because I believe we need hundreds of thousands, millions of whites stepping up now, especially with the transition tomorrow, to partner with people of color to create true racial justice in this country and around the world.
Remember, folks, it will take millions of whites to create racial justice around the world. Racial justice. Say it with me. Racial justice. Justice predicated on skin color. Sounds ideal, doesn't it?
And the way I used to engage whites, the way that people used to engage me, I actually would shut down. People would say, "You're racist." I'm like, "I'm not racist." I had to defend myself.
Probably because you weren't actually racist. If you were actually racist, you wouldn't feel the need to defend yourself. You'd just say, well, yeah, white people are superior. But those people that caused you to defend yourself, those people that shamed you into internalizing their accusations as a hidden truth you were in denial of, now you are one of them, and you're inflicting that same message onto others. So, how does it feel to be one of the good guys?
And I think in this book, there are so many more ways that out of compassion, connection, love, holding people accountable, we can connect with other whites in ways that they want to show up, they want to be better, they want to recognize their racist attitudes and behaviors, change them, and be a part of creating true justice for all.
Compassion, connection, love, holding people accountable. Accountable for their skin color? How does compassion, connection, and love fit into that kind of equation?
So I think when somebody says, some of my best friends are black, right? I think they really, I don't think they're trying to be an asshole, right? I think they really are like, no, for real. My next door neighbor is black. She's a very nice girl.
Oh, you don't think they're trying to be an asshole, but you do think that they're being a racist by pointing out that they associate with people other than those who look like them and appreciate other people despite their skin color being different than theirs. Well, obviously they're lying, right? Because they're white.
I remember hearing a conversation when I was a kid. There were two adults talking, and they were like friends of my parents. And they're like, she's black, but she's a very good doctor. And I don't think when you say something like that, you think that you're being racist. You're like, no, I'm acknowledging, despite the color of her skin, she's like a great friend. What a miracle.
Yeah, I mean, despite being white, they're at least well-meaning. What a miracle.
So how do you talk to somebody who's like, no, for sure, I'm not a racist. I even like some of them.
How do you convince someone that they are guilty of a sin that they do not think they possess? Well, apparently by telling them that their skin color is an immutable stain on their character. A tactic that's never been used in the past to vilify and demonize people unjustly. No, not at all.
How do you bring them into the conversation without saying like, look, that's actually, because I got people in my family. I don't know if you got people in your family where they'll say something like that at the dinner table. And I'm like, oh my God, do you have any idea how racist that is? Which doesn't tend to lead to change, although I continue to try that approach.
So you already practice the accusatory method of exercising racism from those around you. Doesn't sound like you need this book at all. It seems like you're one of its faithful messengers already.
Well, I so relate. I've said so many similar things, and it took me years to realize I was saying, oh, no, they're the exception. They're a good person. And I didn't realize how much I believed those racist white supremacist beliefs that whites are better, superior than people of color.
It took you years to understand that you were a racist, even though your first reflex was to defend yourself from being accused of racism. But you really were a white supremacist. You just didn't know it. Doctor, you sound brainwashed.
And if I were just to say that to someone, they might back away. But
they do not tend to lean into that.
Yes, strangely enough, most people are not attracted to the notion of being accused of something that they are not. Funny that.
But if I tell a story about how I've said something similar, and then somebody with compassion and love said, and you probably didn't mean it, but here's the impact you just had, because I trust you didn't mean to have it because you care about your friend. And let's sit down and have coffee, because I'd love to talk to you about some of my life experiences, ask you about yours. And I believe those one-on-one conversations with other whites or whites coming together in community and white caucuses or affinity groups, when we get honest and we really tell stories, we can help each other see the racist behaviors we still have, the attitudes we still don't know we have or we're trying to fake, as I did for decades, and can help each other find new ways with courage to step up, speak up, intervene when those racist microaggressions happen, and interrupt when we ourselves are saying or doing something in the moment, make amends when they happen, and then build relationships with other whites so that we have a community to keep learning and healing.
So live in a constant state of fear and self-second-guessing over everything you say, do, or think when it comes to anyone who doesn't look like you. Assume that just by being what you are, that you are going to unconsciously harm other people who don't share your skin color. And be sure to trust those that are of your skin color, who are enlightened and can guide you to be a better person, even though their skin color also makes them, their words, and their motivations inherently suspect. Got it.
One of the things I think is so powerful and so different about this book is that it's really about whites helping other whites with racism. Here's a thing that I learned, and I actually learned, we did a book a couple months ago about the grief process. It was called Life from the Ashes by Sherry O'Loughlin. And one of the things Sherry taught me in that book is that the bereaved are often turned into educators. So you're in this low point in your life, and now you have to educate people on how to deal with someone about grief. One of the things I learned from your book is how much, and I've patted myself on the back for it, but how much pressure I've put on my African American friends to educate me about what's not racist. Like, it seems like they should know.
It seems like they should know what's not racist. So all African Americans know, by the nature of their skin color, what is not racist, and thus must also know what is racist in order to differentiate between the two. In the realm of racism detection, blacks are inherently superior, and, obviously, whites may be well-meaning, but can only be educated by the bereaved. In this case, the bereaved are African Americans. Got it.
And so let me just ask them, like, this thing happened. What's a non-racist response to this? And I have put so many expectations on my African American friends and expecting them to send flowers when I ask them to help me.
Because I did something good, right?
Right.
Please, please tell me I'm a good person. Please, please tell me I'm not like one of them. Please tell me that I am a good white.
What I know is whether it's African American, Latino, multiracial, biracial, Asian American, Native American, Arab, Middle East, I have wanted them to teach me, but I've also wanted them to forgive me. I think that's underneath that. I don't know if you can relate.
White people should ask forgiveness from non-white people for being white. Got it.
It's like, I did this, what should I do differently? And I want them to say, oh, it's all right, you're a good person. And to be honest, many have. And I wish they would just not do that. And I wish they would say to me, I don't ask anymore, I don't think, but to be able to say, you know what, here's a book, or go talk to other whites.
Please, please don't absolve me of my sin, for I question not only your sincerity, but that I might ever be cleansed. For I am a wretched creature by birth, and must continuously feed my masochistic psychopathy.
I had somebody do that to me recently, right before I read your book. And it's a woman named Denise Attaway. And I asked her, which I thought I was going to get a thanks for asking. And she's like, it's totally not my job to answer that question. And I was like horrified, like wanted to die, take to my bed. Like, I'm like, I think she just called me a racist.
Is Denise Attaway an African American? Because if you think she was calling you a racist, then you must be one. Because African Americans know what is and is not racist. Naturally.
Here's what I didn't realize. By telling them what I did and what should I've done differently, I'm replicating. And that's like the 10th or 15th time, probably that day, that a racist dynamic has happened to them. I think I'm being a good white, and I don't realize how I'm just replicating. And then they're carrying this cumulative impact. Whereas if we whites would just seek out other whites, build relationships with other whites so that we have a caring community. I do this with my partner, my wife. Is I come home and I said, you will not believe what I did today. I'm so embarrassed. And she's like, oh, I did too. And we can just say it and let it go and change and be different. I want to be very clear. Talking with other whites about this isn't just to say, okay, that's enough. We have to change our behaviors and then go out and tell our story so other whites can relate and see ourselves in each other and find the courage and the faith to show up differently and be a part of racial justice.
Yes, you must confess your sins to the heathen, but show them by example that there is hope for all who would acknowledge their own failings as whites. The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who in the name of charity and goodwill shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness, for he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children.
Yeah, and to me, just getting that message, and then something I learned from you in your book was being able to acknowledge that that was a gift that she said that. Like, how amazing that she would trust me to say that, because most African Americans or people of color would feel like, oh, they have to answer.
So, you know how most African Americans and people of color feel, do you? Interesting. So, merely on the basis of someone's skin color, you can tell how they think. Wow, you are so very well-meaning.
Like, now I'm asking you to work, and you go to work for me. Do my work for me. Thanks, make it easier.
Making African Americans and people of color do your work for you comes naturally to you, does it? Must be because you're white.
Well, what we whites do is we'll punish people of color if they don't take care of us, if they don't make us feel better, if they don't educate us. And I think if we can get hundreds of thousands more whites doing our work with each other, we won't then put all this more racist dynamic on folks of color, because they're dealing with the current dynamics and the ones that have been starting for a while, these last couple months. And I have no idea what's going to, actually I do. It's going to take all of us working together to create true justice and interrupt and speak out and say, not in our town, not in our country.
Oh, yes. All the whites need to get together to discuss how best to deal with people of color. And, wait a sec. That doesn't sound right. Did you mean for what you said to come out that way? I think you have more work to do. Though, I understand your well-meaning.
Well, I was blown away by this book. Honestly, things I had never thought about, never considered, and I consider myself a good white. I thought I'd done all the reading. I've done all the colonial reading. There is so much more. I've touched on just a couple of the pearls of wisdom in this book. Get yourself a copy of But I'm Not a Racist by Cathy Obear.
You consider yourself a good white. You thought you had done all the reading, but, well, see, the problem is you're still white. So, yeah. You're not going to conquer Everest. You're only going to be climbing it. Forever.
Powerful discussion we all need to be having, especially now. Thank you for sharing this book and for stepping up.
And thank you. I was planning to write a different book. And
maybe pressured her into it.
No, and it's because of you I wrote this book at this time. It was what I needed in this moment in time, and I believe it's what many under 100,000s, and it's because you, with courage and compassion, said, I think you need to write this book now.
Amazing. You were guilted, I mean, with compassion and courage, you were inspired to write this book. I guess you needed permission from another white person to tell white people how to be better white people, even though you're white and can't be trusted to know what you're really saying at any given moment. Makes perfect sense. As always, thank you for watching.